Okay. So, uh, we have read through the prologue of Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn here. So I started at my copy of the book, um, read through the acknowledgement of all the people he thanked, and then he wrote a preface, um, which kind of went into some of the um, kind of last, it looks like kind of 10 years since he had originally published the book, and kind of some thoughts about where the book is now and how how big it's gotten. And this is the first time you had read that, even though you read the books before, right?
Yeah, that is right. Yeah, no, I've never read that before. It wasn't in the technically the audiobook I listened to when I first quote unquote read it. But yeah, no, it was great to read, and I could really hear Brandon's voice in everything that he was saying, and I appreciated his just humbleness towards his fans and his appreciation of the community that's kind of put him where he is. So yeah, it was awesome to read.
Nice. Um, so I think we'll just jump right in because I'm super excited to talk about this prologue. And so it kind of opens up with this. I've got it in italics,
Yes,
italics
it should be.
before, and it's kind of someone's perspective or maybe someone's thoughts of what's going on, and it's kind of someone saying from a perspective of, they're the hero in the story and they don't know, kind of, if they can do it or if people believe in them or if they believe in their self and that kind of thing. So interesting. We don't know who at this point
The
that is.
hero, the hero of ages. We do not know who
Yeah,
the hero of ages is exactly.
right. The hero of ages. Um, so it opens right up with the opening line of Ash fell from the sky. So we get introduced to someone named Lord Trusting, who, from what I've gathered so far, is a part of the nobility of this in this world or in this empire. It's common, or it's referred here as the Final Empire, which to me, just kind of from fantasy, makes me feel like there's been either other empires or even other ages in this world. So that's kind of an interesting thing that I'm sure we'll touch on in the future. So Lord Trusting, to me, again, it's kind of this noble, someone of nobility, and he's got some people above him. Specifically, as I'm flipping through, I've got this paperback copy, and I've been marking it up with highlights and scribbling in the margin. So he's got someone
Yes,
over him called the Lord Ruler.
yes,
Uh,
Lord Ruler, very good.
and so, again, I don't know who that's going to be or what kind of the where that's going to go, but that's interesting. He definitely seems like everyone in this chapter. It's someone to be um, revered and scared of at the same time, almost like so. Very interesting. And then quickly discover that ash is falling from the sky. It seems to happen a lot in this area, and um, Trusting's just concerned that his new suit is going to get ruined. But then he talks about these people working the fields outside of his manor, called, I don't, maybe the Ska. Is it Ska?
Yeah, nice ska. Exactly.
Cool,
Yeah.
cool. So we learn about the Ska a little bit. That it's obviously they are a subjugated class, and so I'm assuming, based on what I'm reading here, that they are, if Lord Trusting is let's for lack of better terms call him a human. I'm assuming Ska are also humans, but just of a lesser class, and they're not like a different race, actual, or like a different species, I should say. But I don't know.
That's a good. Yeah, I
Um,
think no, you're right. You're right. That's not really anything.
okay, cool,
Yeah,
cool.
exactly.
So the first thing I want to note about the Ska is that um, Sanderson, at least in this chapter, is not capitalizing them. So like they are not even important enough, or like, you know, like their class is so low that like they don't even aren't considered someone who you would use proper nouns or like, you know, capitalize things to describe them, which I thought was very interesting.
Intentional for sure.
Yeah. And so so Trusting has someone there who showed up via boat from Luthadel. That's where his suit came from, and that's where someone named the Obligator came from.
Yes.
The Obligator is someone that is specifically the Lord Ruler's servant, one of his own Obligators. But it sounds like Trusting has his own Obligators as well. And they are also of a lower stature. So it's almost like, you know, one man's servant is kind of like, okay, he's the lower nobility. His servant is kind of a lower servant. And then if that servant were to move on to, you know, the capital or to the Lord Ruler, he's now a step above all the others.
Oh yeah.
So it's kind of interesting that the hierarchy is there not only amongst the nobility, but also the people that work for them. And so I don't really know a lot about this Obligator. It kind of almost seems like he might be well, we talk about here him having to, obligators have to witness contracts or business deals between noblemen. But then he also mentions some things about maybe like religion. I feel like either he mentioned it or at least I got that, got the tone of like maybe this person has something to do with some kind of religion in the book. But again, I'm the new reader here. I have no idea what I'm talking about. So
yeah, I think you're into something there. I think we'll see as we'll learn a lot more about the Obligators. That's for sure.
We'd be obliged to, you know.
Yes, you could say we'd be obliged, indeed. Yeah. Oh yes, yeah, for the good Lord Ruler.
You know, basically this Obligator, he is talking to Lord Trusting and kind of fluffs him up a bit and says that, you know, he, in a couple more seasons, a couple more years, he might himself be a good candidate to come to Luthadel. And so it seems like that's somewhere where these kind of outer, lower lords or nobles want to get to. Is, you know, he talks about, he's heard about the parties, he's heard about the soirees, if you will. And so it's something he's fantasized about attending or being part of, but he's just not there yet. So it's also interesting. We learn here that the Ska, who are these, you know, these group of people that are working for Lord Trusting, they're not actually necessarily his property. Like all Ska, in quotes here, they belong to the Lord Ruler. Trusting only leased the workers from his god, much in the same way he paid for the services of his obligators. So that's kind of interesting. So here, obviously, the Ska belong to the Lord Ruler, but is the obligators that work for Trusting, or are they also not like his? They're also just really the Lord Rulers.
I'd say,
Can I assume that?
Yeah, you can assume that. Yeah, that's what he's saying. But it's a great pickup there, and I'm glad that it was cool to see your process there through, like, you know, initially thinking it was this way and then seeing that and kind of assessing, because that's absolutely right. Yeah, from his God and their God, and the connection to religion, I think, is keen as well.
Sure. Okay. So we also quickly find out that this obligator knows about some relations, it seems like, that Lord Trusting's been having with female Ska. And it sounds like that's forbidden, and that he's definitely worried that is going to get out and cause him problems. And there's mention of someone by the title of Inquisitor. Trusting is not excited about Inquisitors. When this all gets brought up, you know, it says that Trusting felt a chill. Obligator also mentions someone by the name of the Canton of Inquisition. And so I'm not obviously some kind of inquisitor there, or maybe some league of inquisitors or some group of inquisitors. My first thought, going back to the times when we read Wheel of Time, was inquisitors for the of the light, or for the light, when you're talking about children of the light. And so that's what's in my head right now. Whether that's right or wrong, or close to, who knows? But
we'll read and find out.
That's kind of where I'm at.
I like it.
So that's kind of some of the stuff that we've learned about Trestane. He's standing outside. He's looking over his field, watching the ska work. He notes that they are, lazy workers, that they are slow in the fields. He's got, people that work for him that are, whenever they walk by, these field hands, the ska kind of pick up their pace, and then as soon as they pass by, they go back to being slow, kind of just droning on, getting through the day of their subjugation. And we see that one ska, Trestane looks out and sees one ska making fierce eye contact with him, and he sees, a smoldering in his eyes. He, calls for who I'm assuming, he calls him his burly, or a burly taskmaster is what Sanderson categorizes this guy Curdon as. And so this taskmaster comes up, and by the time that Trestane looks back, the ska seems to be gone. And so that kind of rounds out our time with Lord Trestane so far in the prologue. And then we jump into this new perspective of someone named, let's say, Kelsier.
Kelsier.
Okay.
Nice.
Kelsier. Not Kelsey.
No,
Kelsier.
Kelsier.
All right, so this Kelsier character appears to be of the ska, and he is hanging out outside, and he notes that soon the mists will come. And, obviously, as we read a little further, we hear a little bit about the mist, but that seemed very ominous at the time. And I was thinking of that. There was a movie with, I don't know if it was Matt Damon, but there was maybe it was called The Mist or something, but it was like The Mist, and it killed people, and they were all locked up in a grocery store or something.
That sounds so terrifying. I didn't see that one. Nice.
Yeah.
I like it. So but it's good. Very ominous, right? Totally. He leaves you hanging with it. What is the mist,
He really does. So the ska live in hovels.
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 Yeah, it's just like a shitty shack.
I'm thinking like a shack, or something. Not a very nice place to be. And so he's standing outside. He's seeing the mist form, and he decides to go ahead and enter this place, this hovel, and he goes inside, and he meets someone, or runs into someone named Tepper. Tepper is a kind of elder of the ska. Kind of seems to be the one, at least in this group, or in this this group of 30 or so, to kind of be the, I don't know, leader.
Yeah.
And so they start getting into it, and we quickly learn that Kelsier is, though he is of the ska, he is someone kind of like a renegade, and he kind of does his own thing. And so he kind of jumps from plantation to plantation, farm to farm, bringing news. I would assume trading a little bit would be a guess. We don't really see that here, but more of a wanderer, drifter.
Yeah.
He's not supposed to be doing that, and it sounds like if he were to get caught, it would cause trouble.
Oh, yeah.
And then we also learned that at some point he probably was caught doing something bad, because he is covered, at least on his arms, that's visible, with scars.
Oh yeah.
So, we don't really know what that is, but we do hear about something called the pits of Hathsin.
Oh yeah, the pits. Oh man.
And that they sound like the pits.
Oh yeah, the
and
pits.
so Kelsier, it sounds like he's been there and been subject to whatever happens in these pits. And so I'm sure we'll learn more about that. One quote I think that made the mist part of this whole prologue even more interesting is that a woman who's inside the hovel says, "Men who venture into the mist lose their souls."
Oh yeah.
And I was like, that's super ominous. So Kelsier,
nice.
he starts to tell them of his travels, and talks about a Lord Renault who has stopped certain kinds of beatings for his ska, and has learned that, you know, if you treat the ska better, they're happier and they want to work a little harder. And so he's trying to kind of convey that message to this group. Doesn't seem like Tepper's really excited about that. You know, but he does. Tepper calls Kelsier the survivor. And that the scars on his arms give that away. He's a troublemaker. He travels the plantations, as I talked about, stirring up discontent. You know, you come in, you eat our food, you tell these grand stories with your lies, etc., etc. So, yeah, he's definitely like this vagabond that is like welcome by some, but other people clearly have some disdain or some fears with him. That's kind of what I'm picking up.
Oh yeah.
And then as they're talking, he you know, brings out all this food that he has now, as we find out, has stolen from the from the house, which is kind of interesting. So Lord Tresting's manor up on the hill, it sounds like he snuck into the kitchens or the stores, the cellars, and stole a bunch of goods and foods. And the ska are about it. They are very excited to have fruits and vegetables and bread and some different stuff instead of their soup. Yeah, they're, you know, flavored water. And so a second elder in the group, Goodman Menace. I'm assuming Goodman is what they call their elders.
Oh yeah, Goodman Tepper. Yeah, Goodman Menace. Exactly. Menace is awesome. I like Menace.
He comes in and you know, starts talking with Kelsier, and you know, Kelsier's kind of saying like, hey, like, you know, the time's gonna come. You know, times are changing, and Menace doesn't really seem to. He's like, you know, I don't know. It's just kind of an interesting interaction between the two of them. So Kelsier asks this guy, Goodman Menace, about like, are you satisfied in life? And he brings up, you know, like, I know what rebellion brings. I don't want to be a part of that. And then he says, the eye of the Lord Ruler and the ire of the Steel Ministry can be far more terrible than a few whippings. We kind of have an idea that the Lord Ruler is clearly the person in charge. Don't know what the Steel Ministry is at all. And so, but when we jump a little further, when we start to hear screams coming from outside, Kelsier burned tent.
Oh yeah.
And so it says it's simple for him now. He's been doing this for years, and that the tin sits with other allomantic metals in his stomach, which he has swallowed previously.
Yeah.
Ouch. And the metals are waiting for him to draw upon them. So that takes me back to Steel Ministry. So if these metals are part of the magic system, and what, you know, enables people, like in this instance, for his senses to be heightened, I feel like the Steel Ministry, and this is just my prediction, is probably the group or body that is almost like overseeing the magic, or is like, you know, one would say like the Ministry of Magic in Harry Potter, or the like the Aes Sedai and Wheel of Time and Tar Valon. So that's kind of the vibes I'm getting from that term, Steel Ministry.
I like that. I like that.
So we'll see.
We'll see. We're gonna find out. I think I like where your head's at with it, and I'm excited to find out with you.
Yeah. So he burns this tin, which begs the question, okay, so he's got this tin in him. Is it like this infinite resource that he can always draw upon? Or since he's burning it, does that mean, some of it is like he's using it up and he would have to swallow more or however, whatever to, to use it in the future? All good questions. I don't know.
Great question. Great question. I'd say you're on to something there. I'd like to reward you paying attention. I think to the intentional word like choices, like burn, and like
Sure.
and the fact that you have to swallow metal. Like I think, it's a fun thing. You'll learn pretty quickly like how they go about that and like what that looks like. Coming up here pretty soon. So yeah,
Okay,
what
cool.
you said, I thought the same thing at first. Like, ow! Like when I first read it, I remember just being like, how do they get the metal in there?
Yeah, for sure.
That's great.
I guess the easiest would be like little metal pellets because they'd be like round and smooth instead of like, jagged like
right.
pieces of,
Nasty.
But so he uses this. They hear the screaming outside. He
tin.
burns tin and enhances his senses, which lets him hear better. And so he hears what sounds like two women yelling, an older female and a younger, perhaps female child, and that the younger screams were getting farther and farther away. Someone nearby says, "Poor Jess. That child of hers was a curse. It's better for Ska not to have pretty daughters." And then Tepper nods and say, "Lord Trusting was sure to send for the girls sooner or later. We all knew it. Jess knew it." So the callback to obviously the last perspective when we find out that he's got this taste for, probably having relations with, Ska women, and it sounds like pretty young ones.
Young Ska women. Tristan's a dirtbag.
Yeah, so that's disgusting, to say the least. And so we learn that that's where this girl's going. Is likely she's being picked up to go up to the manor, and Goodman Menace talks about how Lord Trusting's a law-abiding nobleman, and that after Kelsier asks, does he ever return the girls? Menace says no. The girls are killed after a few weeks, and that he doesn't want to catch the eye of the Inquisitors. And so clearly, whoever these Inquisitors work for, whether it's the Steel Ministry or the Lord Ruler or whoever, maybe it's their own entity, they are not about, either A, relations with the Ska between, either regular folk or noble people, or maybe they're just not into, pedophilia. I don't know. That would seem good,
I think you're onto something. I wish it was both, but I don't know. I think definitely leans more towards the first one. I think you're onto something there.
I mean, my gut tells me that these Inquisitors aren't going to be very nice at some point, but I can definitely get behind them, like putting, child sex offenders behind bars.
Yeah,
like, that's cool.
Easy.
Like, let's investigate that.
Yeah, right. Totally.
And so we fast forward, not even fast forward, but kind of moving on. Kelsier, essentially he gets very upset by this, and very quickly says, he stirs up trouble, and that new days are coming, and he tells Menace that he just needs to survive a little longer to see what kind of great things can happen in this final empire, and then he walks out
into the mist.
And then insert a cool sound effect that we haven't found yet. New perspective change sound effect. So Now we are in Minus's perspective, Goodman Minus. He's laying awake. He, he talks about how old he is and how it's difficult for him to sleep. And he struggles to get up every day. And, each day it's harder and harder. And we find out that if he were to basically be too tired to get up, that people come that clearly work for Lord Tresting, and it sounds like kill like the elderly or the sick that can't get up and work, which is very like SS Nazi vibes, concentration camp, like super hard, awful subjugation. And so he decides today, like, okay, these people are looking to me. He's worried that Kelsier did something, and that the people are gonna look to him for leadership. So he decides to get up. So they get outside. They smell smoke, and the young man that Minus is leaning against, Shum, says that it always smells like smoke lately, and that the ash mounts are violent this year. So that's where it sounds like our ash is coming from.
All the ash.
Don't know what those are going to be.
We'll learn.
Part of me feels like, an ash mount could be a volcano. Part of me feels like it could be like, a pile of burning ska or bodies that something like that.
Oh yeah, dark.
That's like
dark world.
Like, that's the dark. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I know how fantasy goes.
Right.
And so they keep moving and find a group of people, and he finds Jess, and standing by her is the daughter that was taken, and her eyes are all red. She's been probably crying and hasn't slept, but she appears fine. And this little girl says that she came back not long after that. Not long after they took her, and she was pounding on the door, crying in the mist. And Flynn, which I don't know who this Flynn is. I feel like he just kind of popped up out of nowhere.
Just another one of the villagers,
the bystanders
that Menace knows. He knows the community by name.
So he's saying that he's sure it was a mist wraith that was impersonating her, and I was like, okay, wraiths. Like, we got wraiths in this.
What's going on in this world, right?
Yeah,
totally.
And why are they so clearly like? Kelsier is not afraid of the mist. He's walking around in this mist at night, but everybody else is afraid of mist wraiths. And so, is that just legend? Is it just something that people are fearful of because of stories, or are there actual things that are creeping around in this mist? To be continued,
exactly.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I agree.
And so, Minus continues north up to the house and finds that it is a blackened, smoldering, pile of rubble, essentially, and that
toasted.
It's crazy. And so Jess's little girl, the one that was taken, says he killed them all. And so we find out that it sounds like, based on her description of the scars, that Kelsier came in and murked everybody in the manor house up on the hill, guards, workers, and Lord Tresting himself. And we come to find out that there's over 24 soldiers that are on the property, and so a lot of killing, which makes you wonder, if Kelsier did do this, how did he do it?
Right.
Did he do it alone?
Right.
And they bring up, did he have? I think Minus is having this thought, does he have a rebel army somewhere? And so they're obviously, the people, the Ska, are scared because it looks like their rulers, the person over them, this lord, is dead.
Oh yeah.
And they think that the lord ruler is going to find out about it and blame them,
right?
For basically uprising. And they say that he'll either send us to the pits, which it sounds like is going back to that Yes, pits of Hathsinth. Hathsinth?
Hath, sin. Like hath, Hath, sin. It's like having sin. The pits of Hath sin.
Pits of Hathsin. And so, oh, that's kind of clever.
Yes.
Okay, and so, or
It is clever.
maybe, or yeah, or maybe, so they're either going to get sent to the pits, or maybe the Lord Ruler is going to order his Kolas or Kolas
Kolas.
to slaughter
nailed
us
it with
outright.
the Kolas. Woo-hoo-hoo, the Kolas. Good catch.
So we don't hear
we
that
just
yet,
know that
but
they slaughter. That's all you know.
Yeah.
And it's
But it's interesting because I've been
important
paying
part.
attention to this. The ska, just like the ska, the Kolas are not capitalized here.
Yes.
So like, is that another subjugated people that are like basically below everybody else, but are, instead of being a like peasant working class, or more of like a peasant warrior class? I'm not sure.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, good.
And
good,
so,
good pickup.
So Tepper, Goodman Tepper, who's now talking to Goodman Menace, says like, doesn't he understand the damage he's done, referencing Kelsier? And Menace said he absolutely understands that. He warned us that he came here to stir up trouble. And when Tepper asks why, he says, because he knew we'd never rebel on our own, and he gave us no choice.
Yeah.
So very interesting, and they basically then decide, hey, we're all going to flee to the east, to the caves where they've heard that there's other ska that are like hiding in the caves.
Rebel ska.
Yeah, rebel ska. So that's kind of the end of the prologue, and then it would be into part 1, The Survivor of Hathsin, which I have not read yet. We haven't gotten there. But yeah, super, super interesting so far.
Yes, new days indeed. New days indeed. Goodman.
So
Tepper.
it'll be interesting to, I think, see where part 1 picks up, because as you know, prologues can be, hey, that was 1,000 years ago, to help give you some context, and now it's 1,000 years later and we're starting the book. Or it could be like, hey, that happened half an hour ago, and now part 1, chapter 1 is, half an hour later, 30 minutes later, and like we're picking up from there. So I don't know if this is like ancient history that we're reading so far, or if it's more current events, and so I guess I'll find out.
Oh yeah, we'll find out. We'll find that answer pretty soon. And I think those are like good questions. And one of the things I think formulaically that you should, it's a good question to keep in your mind, especially when, especially like when reading. I don't think there's a lot of like abstract happenings right away, but we're gonna stay in the moment. And it's gonna be pretty fun. So I'm pretty excited.
Cool.
But I wanted to mention a couple things. I really liked the writing for Sanderson here, just like Kelsier, and you kind of meet him, and he's kind of an ass, he's kind of like whatever, and then he shows like a very generous side of himself, with like giving them all his food, but in the same coin, Sanderson's kind of playing with you as the reader of like, well, is he a good guy or is he a bad guy? Like, what's his goal here? Like, is he trying to rile these people up, or is he trying to, save this young damsel in distress? And kind of that juxtaposition is really, really fun. Right there in the first chapter, getting to meet Kelsier, getting a look at like how some nobles think and how some ska think, and then one of our first characters that we meet, first like main characters.
And so that would be, to me, to put it in like a Dungeons and Dragons perspective, like is, to me, it leans more like chaotic good.
Oh yeah, for sure. For an alignment,
like,
I think you're on the right track there, right? Because he's willing to kill people, like very apparently a lot of people. 25 people. That's a lot of people. For whether it was one or many, we don't know. But I think still, it's a massive amount. And then to then burn, like there's an image in there where she's talking about him throwing the torch behind him and burning, the keep down, and I really loved that image of Kelsier carrying this gal, kind of out of there and getting her out, and so like a hero, but also like I don't know, can we trust him? Yeah,
sure.
He's kind of he's like mischievous and. I love it. It's just a great start and a great introduction to Kelsier.
One last thing I wanted to bring up because I felt like this had a lot of weight in some other books I've read. Not all, as far as fantasy goes, but I wanted to talk a little bit about art and symbols, I should say, so far. So my copy of the book is like a mass market paperback. And the cover appears to be some kind of building, and there's like a stained glass window that's being broken out, and there's shards of glass flying, which I don't know anything about shards, but we kind of came up with names of this podcast together, and
awesome.
We're testing some things out. May or may not have been using artificial intelligence to help us find some answers
for sure.
To our creativity, and so we came upon Shards and Shenanigans, and you were pretty excited about how that fit into this universe, and so the only thing I can say is that
there's
shards of glass. So that's cool.
I love it. That's great. So that makes me so happy. Really good.
So getting into the book, there is on the title cover page, 3 or 4 pages past some of the fluff. It says Mistborn, and then under it is some kind of symbol that I don't recognize.
Oh yeah.
And then there are 2 kind of shorter bladed knives, almost kind of like like Legolas would carry on his back from the Lord of the Rings. And so I just wonder, since we talk in the prologue of Kelsier using or Lord Trestain having a ton of stab wounds, it sounds like, in his back, and there's these knives here, and I just wonder if this symbol that's kind of interposed, that's probably not a word, imposed on top of the knives has something to do or something important.
It does. It is an important symbol.
Which you might not be able to tell me yet, but I just wanted to bring it up that I'm kind of try to keep an eye out on these.
Yes. Yeah, I know. I like it. That is good. And the knives are also important too. So,
okay.
Yeah, no, you're right on point, I think. And that's all I need to say. I'm stoked.
Cool. Prologue. There is a symbol underneath the word prologue. It's kind of like a 1.
Yes.
Very indescript. But then we see when we get further down, if we were to just kind of go into part 1, my part 1, The Survivor Hathsen, has a series of symbols all around it.
How many?
2, 4, 6, 8, 10.
Huh. Cool.
Huh. Cool. One of them matches that first symbol we talked about with the knives. And then when you open up to the first page of chapter 1 in part 1, that same symbol is there as well. The one where that originally I saw with the knives. So just something just so you and any listeners that we may or may not have or know, I want people to know I'm picking up on these things and I'm going to try to track them.
I like it. I think for the most part, I think that's a great idea to just keep track of those things. And I'm looking for if I can see any correlation, and I find a couple, but I think in some ways too, it's just kind of exposing us to some themes of the world, and then once we learn about it, it'll kind of fit in. But I don't think, yeah, yeah, no, I think for now it's just something you can enjoy, and then not, yeah, for sure.
Nice, cool. Well,
I
that's it
can't
for me and
remember
my
like
recap.
learning about like each symbol's exact shape, more so just seeing it in reference. More.
Sure. Okay. So that's it for my summary of like kind of what I've read so far, and
Dude.
I'm feeling good. It definitely is inviting and makes you question. Like he did a good job of putting some questions out there that you're gonna want some answers to. Like you're like, it's obviously pretty short, just a few pages, but it's enough to kind of set the hook a little bit and be like, who are these Ska and who is this Lord Ruler, and what are these pits?
Oh yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
do they smell?
Yeah, I'd say you can say so. Yeah, you can say they smell. Yeah,
Yeah.
they
So
probably don't smell
it's just
good.
he does a good job of kind of making you intrigued and like I definitely want to read on. So that's good.
Nice, nice. I like to hear it. Yeah, no, I guess I kind of had a couple other things that I really liked. I appreciated the introduction of the obligators. I wanted to add just kind of some more, detail was that they had tattoos on their face,
Yes, yeah,
and I wanted to
remember
bring
that.
that up because like I like Sanderson's in his writing, and I'd say this goes for all of the Cosmere, but just his ways of approaching humanities, like ideas on class and on societal norms, and kind of he definitely in this is showing a very like something we're familiar with, right? Like feudal subjugation. When you were saying this with the lowercase with the sky, I was just loving it because to me I think of serfs, SERF lowercase. It is the feudal people that live on the land, but it's up to them to empower a ruler to like exist. They have to work, they have to do those things, and so these lords that are like renting them out, but the serfs aren't getting paid. It goes to the Lord Ruler, to the king. It's his tithe, and it's the final empire. And so I liked where you picked all that up. That really, I was really excited to see that, because yeah, I think it's spot on, and it's what I'm thinking about when I'm reading it too. And then I also love that you picked out a bunch of great house names. I did want to mention another. That you picked out the Lord to the West. I think it was Renew or something, and that was very good. And you kind of picked up the nuance of there's this like almost England French kind of like language piece to it, where some things have that like French flavor to them. So with like Kelsier, you're like, is it Kelsier? I was like, honestly, like I could see that, and but yeah, no, that was really I like that you were picking that up, and I feel like it was kind of almost an homage to that timepiece, and I like what Sanderson is doing with that. I love just like being in the village in the hovels with the people, and like kind of learning about their suffering and like how strong that they were, like Menace just like getting up every day. I'm like, this guy's the strongest, dude. Like you mentioned the camps, like exactly, like he's as if the camps, he lived there for his whole life, and like what does that made him, he's like, but he has this experience too where Menace is talking about like, I know about rebellion, and I know about the wrath of the, the steel ministry, and it's like, oh man, like I really liked what you were putting together there. That was exciting. Let's see here, yeah, the obligators and the inquisitors, and kind of like the kolos, those like words that you're picking up. I was really appreciating those. I'd say let's keep an eye on those things. And there I think that's good. I don't know. There was like there was one mention of another house in it that I was very excited about. But I think when I first read it, didn't, I didn't really know like enough to like it mean much. Like we're at trusting right now, and like whoever these other people are, like you'll learn, and I did. You will, but it was cool to kind of see some other. There's just kind of treats in there for rereading, and it feels like I really am appreciating that. So, thanks for having this cool idea to do this awesome podcast where I get to re-experience this with you, experiencing it for the first time, and I want to be like a good guide in a sense of just giving you some paths to choose for yourself to go down. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, it definitely we have a lot to look forward to in the chapters to come and the episodes that we are going to record here in the future. So I think that's kind of it for me. You have anything else you want to add?
I just want to say thanks, listeners. Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Moose and Jeannie. Thanks to all our family. Natalie, my wife. God, really God. Thank you, Kyle. I really appreciate this, and look forward to some Shards and Shenanigans.
Cool. Well, everybody who isn't listening right now because we have no followers yet, we are going to sign off, and we will talk to you after chapter 1 of Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson.
Signing out.
Bye-bye.